Welcome to Securing America with me, Frank Gaffney, the program that's a kind of owner's manual for protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to God's glory and that of his kingdom. This is a moment when the announcement by the Supreme Court of the United States that the longstanding ruling known as Roe v. Wade is in fact unconstitutional. It has been overturned by a 6-3 majority of the court. And this is, of course, against the backdrop of what has now been not simply threats to the court, indeed an assassination attempt against one of its serving associate justices, Brett Kavanaugh, but the prospect of a very much wider, violent campaign that is in prospect, as I say, perhaps nationwide, using the pretext of this court ruling, I think it's fair to say, as the justification for a summer of rage. A man who has been studying the people who are making such threats and who it seems are poised now to act on them is my colleague at the Center for Security Policy, I'm proud to say, Kyle Shideler. He directs our Homeland Security Project as a senior analyst of considerable acclaim because of his rigorous pursuit of the facts wherever they lead, even if they might be considered to be, well, politically incorrect or impolitic at least. He's always a great resource for this program. We're delighted to have him with us. Thanks, Kyle, for joining us here at Securing America once again.
Thanks for having me, Frank. It's always a good time.
What are you making of the prospects at the moment that one or more of these groups, you've particularly, I think, called attention to an outfit called Jane's Revenge, may now go very ugly in the wake of this court ruling?
Well, I think, Frank, what we have seen from the radical left since at least 2020 has been a formulation of X or we burn the country. First, it was BLM, defund the police. Then it was Biden's election and no investigation of election integrity. Now it is Roe versus Wade. But it all fits into that formulation, X or we burn the country. And now they have to deliver. So we will see if they are able to do that. Obviously, we've seen elements calling for a night of rage on the day that the announcement was made. That's a Friday today. That's good for them. Gives them plenty of time to plan over the weekend to conduct whatever they're going to do and plenty of free time to conduct actions. I think we will see some activity tonight. I don't think it will be on the scale of what we saw at the height of the 2020 riots, simply because of the larger support networks. They need bail funds. They need money and movement of people. I don't know if that has happened in this case, partially due to conflicts that we've seen between some of the hardline communist and anarchist groups, and disagreements also with some of the more liberal-leaning groups as well. And that's where that big money comes from that pays for the bail funds, the major left-wing foundations, those kinds of things. If they're not on board, often they can't conduct actions at the same size that they would like to. But I think we will see some kind of action. What I think we will definitely see is an uptick in direct actions of the kind that we have seen this group Jane's Revenge perpetrate over the last several weeks. That is direct targeting of crisis pregnancy centers and churches with Molotov cocktails and vandalism. They may escalate as well. Let's hope not, but that's certainly a possibility. I've seen reports on social media that the Department of Homeland Security is speaking to crisis pregnancy centers and churches, warning them of the potential security risk. That's a positive in my book, that they're actually aware of the potentiality for violence here. But I think either way it goes tonight, we will see an uptick in that kind of direct action and violence.
We've been talking with one of our other colleagues, Sam Faddis, about ties between this group, Jane's Revenge, and the Revolutionary Communist Party of the USA. Um, you mentioned, Marxists in this mix. Is that tie established in your mind, Kyle Shideler? And what does that tell us about the likelihood that, in fact, not only will this group engage in heightened violence, but that it will enjoy support from beyond that organization itself?
Well, I think the key thing to understand is that when you're talking about the broad Marxist leftist movement worldwide, you're talking about multiple separate lines of effort. Mm-hmm. The Revolutionary Communist Party is an attempt at a mass line movement. That is to say, they try to recruit lots and lots of people and get them into the streets in order to appear as though they are large and powerful. The violence we're seeing from Jane's Revenge, in my opinion, has an insurrectionary anarchist flavor. That is to say, it's most likely conducted by small cells of individuals, which anarchists typically call affinity groups, who have adopted the name Jane's Revenge in order to conduct actions related to the abortion topic and targeting pro-life centers and churches. They are probably the same kinds of affinity groups that conduct other sorts of direct actions, whether it's radical environmentalists or Antifa style actions. Often you'll see that the sort of affinity groups that are comfortable with violence and are comfortable with direct action conduct those actions on a wide variety of topics, and they just change the name of whatever organization they're operating on behalf of, depending on the target.
In other words,
I think that's likely
the
case,
rather than the cause célèbre that animates this group.
Sure, I think they do. I mean, I think they do obviously believe in what they're saying, but as David Horowitz liked to quote an SDS activist as saying, the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. And I think that is absolutely what we're seeing here. I mean, if you look at the language that is coming out of some of these groups, it's just repeatedly echoed the same demands, regardless of the topic. We saw during the 2020 summer riots, BLM issued a statement calling for the destruction of the nuclear family. Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't have anything to do with the topic, but it was part of their demands because their overall goal is a broader revolutionary one.
Yes.
And I think we're seeing the same sort of thing today. I mean, it's worth noting, for example, that this group Ruth sent us, which has conducted some of the demonstrations outside Supreme Court justices' homes and have also called for the targeting of churches. That group was formed as one of these many Stop Trump's Coup groups, which were pushed out in 2020 in order to create a fait accompli over the election. Mm-hmm. And you'll remember us talking about that back in November and January. Mm-hmm. So they just changed the topic, but the actual organizers and individuals remain the same. And as I said, it's a multiple lines of efforts across the entire revolution. So you have groups that are responsible for one set of activities, and those are the kinds of activities they conduct. And you have other groups that do other things, but they're all operating together, not necessarily conspiratorially in the sense that they don't necessarily talk to each other, but they all know what their role is and they carry it out.
They have their discrete missions in pursuit of the overall agenda of taking down the country.
Right.
Kyle, we have to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk with you about two things that are weighing on me as you speak. One is the point you made in passing there, that these groups get substantial funding from philanthropic organizations that have no problem financing revolutionary, even violent activity, or supporting and enabling it at the very least. And secondly, I want to talk with you about the so-called insurrection that we've been hearing a lot about from the January 6th committee, and what you make of whether they've got something that actually makes that case or not. We'll talk more about that with Kyle Shideler of the Center for Security Policy right after this.